Okay, this is believability in fictive writing. Death as a character in Sarah Kane's Blasted. I'll begin by making a couple of claims. Human conditions can be powerfully conveyed in abstract presentations in art and writing through symbolism, and minimalism contributes strength to writing through omission. So let's define our terms. Symbolism, something many of us are familiar with, was a French movement, began in the pictorial arts in the 1870s. A decade later, it had moved into literature, and major proponents of that movement were Stephen Mallarmé, Paul Verlaine, and Arthur Rimbaud. Minimalism is a style or technique that is characterized by extreme spareness and simplicity. So within minimalism is held that a story is just a small part of the meaning of a story. Sarah Kane was part of the in-your-face theater movement. It was a predominantly UK mid-90s movement that showcased new talent that was influenced in part by John Osborne's work and the first two films of Quentin Tarantino. And so the people that were associated with it, particularly Kane and Anthony Nielsen, shunned the term because they found it restrictive. So Blasted, it's a play, 5 scenes, 58 pages. It premiered on January 12th, 1995 at the Royal Court Theatre upstairs. This is a house that seats about 60, and the timing was significant because it really showed that the idea was for them to showcase this new talent, but they apparently were concerned about the play's content and felt that it would not be a hit. So it came out right after the holidays, but it ended up blowing up and causing a media frenzy. So in this play, we start out with Ian and Kate. They check into an expensive hotel room in Leeds during a bombing campaign. Ian, 45, Welsh, cynical. He's a journalist. Kate, 21, South London. Ian's dying of lung cancer. Kate, it's suggested that she has a mental disorder. She breaks out in disassociative laughter, and her understanding of the world just seems to be inadequate. So Ian has her there and he tries to woo her, and he gives Kate a bouquet of flowers. Then he rapes her. And it's significant that the rape takes place between scene 1 and scene 2. It was not done this way because Kane was pandering to puritanical audiences. She did this for a symbolic reason. Kate leaves to take a bath and she ends up outside of the hotel. A soldier appears. He's immediately menacing. He pisses on the bed. The hotel is shelled, and Ian and the soldier are knocked to the floor. The soldier revives first and begins to regale Ian of his war crimes. And he implicates Ian as a killer like himself, which Ian denies. So then the soldier rapes Ian, sucks out his eyes, eats them, and shoots himself. Kate returns holding a baby. The baby dies. They bury the baby in the hotel room floor. Kate leaves to get food. Ian eats the baby, crawls into the space where the baby had been buried so that only his head is sticking out. Later, Kate returns with food, blood's running down her leg, and she feeds Ian sausages and gin. And then they're sitting there. Ian's been rained on, and Kate is sucking her thumb. He thanks her for the food, and the play ends. So Ian's denial is really central to the action of this play. So how does Sarah Kane achieve her effects? Well, she introduces realistic elements. We've got 2 people in a hotel room. There's a war happening in Leeds. They have conflicts. It's definitely sexual in nature. And Kate is also kind of turned off by Ian's negativity. And then Kane introduces bizarre elements, and we see them in the soldier. His appearance is strange and inhuman-like. the sucking out and eating of eyes, eating a dead baby, burying the baby in the floor, crawling into the floor. And Kane makes this believable by naturalizing the bizarre elements in the action of the play over time. So we have symbols and implication, raw brutality, and they are delivered through motivational changes that the characters go through, which are really briskly implemented. And we see them right from the get-go and in events that happen in the play. So Kane owns the idea, and I think like when we're writing, if we own the idea, whatever we're doing, we're going to be fine. We just have to maintain the logic of the world that we're creating. So symbology, we've got the opening of scene 2. Kane gives us very like straightforward, almost classic symbology in this play. It's bright and sunny. It's going to be hot. So the bouquet that Ian had given Kate is ripped apart and scattered across the floor. That's a very clear indication of like a violation of the female body. And so then we get implication. This is kind of subtle. So Ian exits the bed first and he fixes himself a gin, and then he has this crippling cancer-related pain. And Kate is just watching him. She just stares at him with hate. So the staring with hatred is symbolic of this crime that's been committed against her. Then they talk about it, and this is, very clear. And the characters in this play speak in this like clipped language. It's kind of redolent of the street, It seems inherently British. Loved me last night. I didn't want to do it. It was hurting. I mean, Kate, she doesn't really stand up for herself, but she lets it be known what she's feeling and, like how it was for her. And so then we see that Kate's rape by Ian was symbolized by the scattered flowers and implied by the stage directions and dialogue. So I'll make a second claim, and that's that death is a character in this play. And yeah, there's the guy with the scythe who's coming to get you, certainly an adversarial figure, but there's also death as an action. And so really I see 4 ways of death in this play: death as a physical form, death as an action, death as a mood evoked in the work, and death as a portal of transformation, which is a thing and an action. So senses of death as a physical form. Ian starts the play with this line. So we have his negativity, and we have shit. So shit, it comes from food, and food is a biological source, and it sustains life. So food is alive. But shit, it comes from a biological source, but does not sustain life. So in this syllogism, shit is not alive. And we have Ian as this like tough talking, walking dead figure. He's dying of cancer, and he's perpetually negative. So he says, well, his first line is conjuring up the notion of death by referencing this lifeless thing moving through him. It's an ordinary statement linked to a subconscious preoccupation with death. And so the act of defecation is a rejection from human life. It's the end of a life cycle. But there is a caveat, because shit is only dead in a notional sense, because shit is actually alive. So it's only aesthetically here that Kane is saying that shit is not alive. So Ian, dying of cancer, he also has cirrhosis, and he tells us if one doesn't get him, the other will. And they have this dialogue, Kate and Ian, and it's about Ian seeing part of his lung on a table. And he's just kind of telling her like he's a reporter. I mean, he is, and he's speaking about his body as if like he's not a part of it. And it's, outside of him. He is no longer attached to this portion of his lung, but he gives this sort of reportage. And Kate gives this sort of pedestrian plea for him to stop smoking, so he'll save his life. But Ian, tells her that he's dead. I mean, he's sort of nihilistic and a narcissistic person who's like, he thinks anyways, come to embrace death. So Ian is death because he's dying. He's the active rejection of life. He's got this negative personality. He's destructive. He's destroyed his relationship with Kate, with his ex-wife. They talk a little bit about that, and it's impinged on his relationship with his son. And Ian's killed people. It's implied that he's made mercy killings. So Ian willfully supports his terminal condition, and therefore he's got this death drive. As an action, we see death really strongly in the soldier. This is the description that we get for him. So he's not mentioned at the beginning of the play with the sort of human characters. The soldier is presented as a male, but very inhuman. We see that right away. He's called soldier. There's no name given for him, and not even the title, the. So he's kind of objectified in this way. And he interrogates Ian, implicates Ian as a killer, but a brutal one, like he is. He makes no bones about this. He's a brutal killer. But Ian denies that he's a brutal killer. He just does not see himself as this same sort of figure as the soldier. Then a hotel is shelled. They're knocked out, and they wake. The soldier confesses to Ian. So soldier begins to tell Ian something that he doesn't want to hear. Ian says, "Don't tell me." But the soldier does. He's standing outside of a house. He shoots a boy through the legs, and he hears this crying, and he goes into this basement where these soldiers are like harassing these people. I think there are 7 of them, 4 women, 3 men. So these other soldiers, not in the play, hold the men while the soldier of the play rapes the women. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The youngest was 12. And then after the rape, to deal with this, he shoots the child's father in the mouth and hangs her brothers from the ceiling by their testicles. And so Ian's reply to this is charming. He's clearly terrified, but he is trying to hang with this like killing machine. So the inhuman elements that the soldier embodies are illustrated by the sniper's rifle, the actions, rape, torture, killing. These are certainly human things. It is very human to rape and to torture people. But, we call them inhuman, and they have this like death-provoking, destruction element that's inherent into these actions. So they produce death, destruction, and then desire. So the soldier is this thing now that is there to kill, rape, and eat. And that's all he does. He too has the death drive. So one symbol, multiple meanings. A symbol never needs to be just 2 things. And like in the sort of logic and practice of the occult, a symbol is something that remains esoteric. It is never fully understood. So you have a character named Grandpa in a play, and Grandpa represents Satan. Grandpa doesn't ever have to just represent Satan or be Grandpa. He can also be relatable to, the factory worker who in 1954 got his hand crushed by a block of ice, to sort of make him human. So he can be like all of those things and even more. It just doesn't have to have a clear dividing line. So the soldier announces to Ian that he's going to rape him. I'm going to rape and kill you. So as an action, Ian chooses to die. And the soldier seems to be ready to honor this. He's going to fuck him, but Ian says, no, don't do that. The soldier says, fine, kill you then. And so Ian agrees to that. And the soldier mocks him. You'd rather be shot than fucked and shot. And Ian says, yes. So the soldier does not agree to this. He just turns Ian around with one hand, pulls down his own pants, pulls down Ian's trousers, and rapes him. They're standing up. Ian is silent. The text talks about him like embracing the pain. He can't do anything. He's just there. And the soldier's crying his heart out. So afterwards, this Ian just says, are you going to kill me? And the soldier mocks him again. The soldier is less than the sum of his parts. He is like a product of the insanity of war. So the soldier really, he only functions to eat, rape, and kill. He's no longer like a human in the way that you and I are human. He just doesn't have those concerns. So the soldier is like this death figure because he's post-transformation. He's just, he's got no problems. He's ready to die, and he's just going to cause destruction until he gets there. And then we have death as a portal. So this is both like the gate, to go through into the state of death, but it's also like the thing that exists beyond the body, like a soul or something, like the post-natural life state. And in the middle of scene 5, we get this dialogue between Kate and Ian. Top left, Kate goes. So Ian is blinded. He's bloody, and he is starving, and he says, Kate, and he tries to appeal to her for food. And we get these 8 instances of darkness and light. So in between where the darkness gives way to light, we see Ian doing these base activities. He's gratifying himself, cursing, strangling himself, defecating, laughing hysterically. He cries these tears and hugs the corpse of the soldier. And then he's lying still, weak with hunger. And then as we get to the end, he tears out the grave of the baby. And he eats the baby. He unwraps it and consumes the baby, and then puts its remains back into the rag and disposes of it. Then he crawls into this tomb that they had made for the baby, and he dies. So he symbolically dies here, and it rains. So the rain is coming through the roof of the hotel room that's been mortared. And then he has another line. It says shit. And Kate comes in. And so she's got the food. So she was a vegetarian, but she's eating the sausage, and she has some of the gin, and she feeds Ian. So Kate is sucking her thumb after Ian is fed, and Ian just thanks her. And so what we have here is this redemption. Ian is redeemed by grace. It's really like Kane, her decision was to focus on the baseness and the brutality of sin, of this kind of behavior. So Kane is focused on the destruction, but she has this lift, and it's a sort of muted lift because it's a grim ending, but Ian has been redeemed. He has this chance to continue living. And so grace is really important with Kane. Now, 8 is very significant here because we have 8 instances of darkness and light, and 8 in Christian numerology is the number of transformation. So Kate would, or rather, Sarah Kane would be familiar with this term. She was a Christian in her youth, and the idea of grace was like prevalent in her writing. So it's purposeful. And Ian, as base as he is, as kind of pathetic as the ending of this play is, there is hope for these two. So, senses of death and blasted. We have death as a physical form, Ian and the soldier killing and wanting to die. As an action, Ian's murders, which are just talked about or implied, the soldier's murders, the act of dying, Kate's rape, her implied rape, when she comes back in 5 and she has blood running down her legs, the rape of soldier's girlfriend named Cole, C-O-L, and the suffering and physical destruction in the wake of death. And then we have death as a mood. It's an obsession with mortality, a dilemma that it's written from, which was, the author putting her worldview into this play. And then death as a portal of transformation, with the redemption and grace. So what is Kane saying in her play? Well, there's terrorism and war, okay? And then there's terrorism in the domicile. Kate's offstage rape are symbolic of domestic abuse. Their muted presence in the play reflects the silence abused women have endured. And also that men should be expected to die or want to die following rape, but women should be expected to live with it. So that's it. Are there any questions? Thanks for coming, even though this was recorded.